Good evening, everybody. I'm Seth Meyers. This is Late Night. We hope you're doing well. And now, if you don't mind, we're going to get to the news. Well, yesterday was Election Day, and Democrats won governorships in New Jersey and Virginia. Zohran Mamdani was elected mayor of New York City, and California passed Proposition 50. It was the best day for Democrats since they put Hamilton on Disney+. And none of it could have been achieved without the work of Democratic strategist Donald Trump. Tip of the cap to you, sir. That's right, 34-year-old Zohran Mamdani is set to become the youngest mayor of New York City in more than a century, and somehow still more mature than the last guy. That's right, Zohran Mamdani has been elected the next mayor of New York City, which means any moment now, Chuck Schumer will endorse him. During his acceptance speech yesterday after defeating former Governor Andrew Cuomo, New York Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani said, quote, "I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life, but let tonight be the final time I utter his name." Damn, I thought he was a mild-mannered socialist, but he sounds like a member of the Night's Watch. Former New York Mayor Bill de Blasio shared a photo on social media yesterday of himself wearing a shirt that said "Hot Girls for Zohran." Well, he may not be our mayor anymore, but he'll always be our most embarrassing dad. Attorney General Pam Bondi said yesterday that the Biden Justice Department seized President Trump's official cell phone from his first term, and now she's retaliating by seizing Biden's phone. When asked yesterday why President Trump recently got an MRI, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that she would check on it, but then Trump busted in and yelled, "Penis too big." That's why I got it. No, that was why. They're worried, but they The largest healthcare provider in Maine has issued an apology after mistakenly sent letters to more than 500 living patients that said they were dead. "Dibs!" yelled Stephen King. The New York Jets announced yesterday they have traded 2 defensive players. Said the players, "Defensive? What's that supposed to mean?" That's the one we talked the most about today. And finally, People magazine yesterday named actor Jonathan. Yeah, why not? Make some noise for Jonathan Bailey. People magazine yesterday named actor Jonathan Bailey its new sexiest man alive. Wow, yesterday was a real double whammy for Curtis Sliwa. And that was a monologue, everybody. We are off, friend. We got a great show for you tonight. He is a baseball legend whose new docuseries, Alex versus A-Rod, kicks off tomorrow on HBO and streams on HBO Max. Alex Rodriguez is here, everybody. And she is an Emmy-nominated actress, from Ripley and The Perfect Couple, as well as fantastic films such as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and I Am Sam. She's starring in the new Peacock series, All Her Fault. Dakota Fanning will also be joining us. But before we get to all that, well, you guys, there were elections last night, and in the age of Trump, you know what that means, bad news for Democrats. And I'm sorry to say there were elections in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York last night, and unfortunately, they did not go the way Democrats had hoped. They went even better. Is this what good news feels? My fingernails are tingling. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Not sure if you guys have heard, but Donald Trump has his best approval numbers ever, although take it with a grain of salt because my source for that information is Donald Trump.
I have my highest numbers that I've ever had, as I should. I ended 8 wars, and we have the greatest economy in history. So we have the greatest economy we've ever had. I have my highest poll numbers that I've ever had.
Now, in fairness, it's a low bar to clear. Trump has never had poll numbers that were like through the roof. His polling ceiling is like New York on a warm November day, low 40s. Also, it's not true. In fact, the opposite is true. Trump has the worst poll numbers of his second term. So he's either lying or he mixed up his poll numbers with his cholesterol. I just got these from my doctor. He said my poll numbers are all the way up to 200. I'm so popular, I have to cut out red meat. Now, one of the things about how often Trump lies is you just assume he's getting away with it. When you hear him say he solved 8 wars and inflation is gone, and how every time he meets a big, strong person, they shake his hand and cry their eyes out with gratitude, you can't help but think nothing matters anymore. But every now and then, thanks to democracy, people get a chance to vote. And instead of listening to Donald Trump, they see with their own eyes that Beef and electricity prices are skyrocketing. Farmers and military families are suffering, and flight delays are getting worse, and food stamp benefits are running out. And instead of addressing any of that, he's showing off his new ballroom plan so often that, and I'm just gonna say it, I'm starting to think he's gonna flip the White House. Don't rule it out. I feel like as soon as the renovations are done, he's going to sell it to the highest bidder, and the new White House is going to be an abandoned brownstone across the street at 1601 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's not big, but it's got a lot of charm. The point is, Trump can say how things are going, but let's look and see how voters think they're going.
Democrats in Virginia delivered a clean sweep in races up and down the ballot Tuesday night, delivering what they're calling an unmistakable message to the White House. Democrat Abigail Spanberger winning her race to become the first female governor in Virginia history.
Voters elected Democrat Mikey Sherrill as the governor of New Jersey.
Sherrill won by a double-digit margin over Jack Ciattarelli.
Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic candidate, will be elected the next mayor of New York, New York.
In Pennsylvania, Democrats have retained 3 crucial seats on that state's Supreme Court.
In California, voters approved new congressional district boundaries. Proposition 50 gives Democrats a shot at winning as many as 5 additional seats in the U.S. House.
Democrats flipped 2 seats on Georgia's Public Service Commission in this year's election.
The Public Service Commission sets Georgia Power's electricity rates and regulates utilities.
And they actually got people out to vote for the Georgia State Utility Commission, which doesn't even sound like a real thing. It sounds like an excuse an exhausted dad would make up just to get out of the house. You know, like, sorry, I can't do bedtime tonight. I got to go out and vote. Vote for what? There's an election for 2 seats on the State Utility Commission. I'm sorry, I'm the only one in this family who cares about democracy. It was hard to find anything positive for the GOP to hang their hats on last night. Even in deep red Ohio, they lost a mayor's race. In fact, that loss hit close to home for at least one member of the Trump team.
We do have a call in the Cincinnati mayor's race, in case anybody has been waiting for that. Aftab Pureval is the very charismatic incumbent mayor of Cincinnati, Ohio. He has defeated J.D. Vance's half-brother.
Pureval has more than 78% of the vote, Bowman with 22%.
That's right, J.D. Vance's half-brother lost his bid for mayor of Cincinnati despite the compelling slogan, "I'm only half." I can't believe the vice president's half-brother lost an election in a blowout. I didn't even know he had a half-brother. This is like finding out Kristi Noem has a twin sister who ran for mayor of the Overlook Hotel. And you know, if you want to tell them apart, it's not that hard. Kristi's sister still has her dog. So, the GOP, I'm allowed to tell that joke. I recently lost my dog. I did. I recently lost my dog 3 months ago. So I think it's still allowed. I think I'm still allowed. So the GOP, did somebody start applauding the fact that she'll come back. So the GOP got crushed despite Trump claiming everything is awesome and he has his best numbers ever. How is Trump going to square that circle?
Last night, it was, not expected to be a victory. It was very Democrat areas, but I don't think it was good for Republicans. I don't think it was good. I'm not sure it was good for anybody.
No, I mean, I think it was good for somebody. It was an election. I don't think Democrats at election parties all over the country are being told, "Congrats, you won," and then responding by looking out a window and saying, "Did I?" You know how it was a bad night for Republicans? Trump was giving off Jets coach at a post-game press conference vibes. You know, in our defense, we didn't think we were going to win, and I think you saw that on the field today. And, after the game, one of our linemen came up to me, big guy, strong guy, tears running down his face, and over those little black smudges they put under his eyes, and he said, "Coach Trump, I don't think you understand the rules of football." But at least Trump admitted it was a bad night for Republicans. What happened to those record-high poll numbers he supposedly had? How come that didn't translate?
As far as the Trump impact on the Sherrill voters, the reason for their vote, the Sherrill voters' vote, those who said that they wanted to oppose the sitting president, 71% of them. So this is really what led to the outcome tonight.
While 71% of Sherrill voters said they were casting their vote to oppose the sitting president, Trump lost every key New Jersey demographic: guys in tracksuits, moms at the outlet malls, and the entire cast of the Jersey Shore. In fact, in New Jersey, Trump's approval rating is only 11%. How do I know that? I asked a guy from New Jersey, and he said, "Hey, Donnie, I got your 11% right here." And by the way, not only did Trump drag down Republicans in New Jersey, his endorsements also backfired. He tried to intervene and the New York City mayor's race, and suffice it to say, it did not work.
Just within the last hour, President Trump posting on social media, whether you personally like Andrew Cuomo or not, you really have no choice. You must vote for him and hope he does a fantastic job. He is capable of it. Mamdani is not.
I'm not a fan of Cuomo one way or the other, but if it's going to be between a bad Democrat and a communist, I'm going to pick the bad Democrat all the time, to be honest with you.
Wow, I can't believe Cuomo didn't romp to victory with that soaring endorsement. In general, when you're trying to get people to vote for someone, try not to have the word bad in there so much. That's almost as helpful as the New York Post headline, if it were between herpes and Cuomo, I guess we'd choose Cuomo. But Trump wasn't the only Republican who weighed in on the race.
The anti-Mamdani vote, which is really the pro-New York City vote, the pro-America vote, needs to unite behind the leading candidate, and that's Andrew Cuomo.
Well, I can't believe the coveted Stephen Miller endorsement didn't put Cuomo over the top in New York City. Getting an endorsement from Stephen Miller is like getting an endorsement from the Babadook. That's why the Babadook knocks at your door. He's canvassing for Cuomo. But Trump was not alone in how underwhelming he was with the endorsement of Cuomo. Even Cuomo's supporters admitted that they had to hold their noses to vote for him.
I've been speaking to Andrea Crawford here, who's a decades-long resident here in Queens, New York. And tell me, you voted for Andrew Cuomo. Why?
I voted for Andrew Cuomo because I needed operational experience in the mayor's office. I think it's been lacking in the last several terms. It's a huge city, huge budget. We have lots of issues. And I think he actually gets things done.
Were you excited to vote for Andrew Cuomo?
Not particularly.
Oh my God, quick. Is it too late to put that on a yard sign? But that clip right there explains everything. Andrew Cuomo lost because even the people who voted for him did so reluctantly. The winner, Zohran Mamdani, assembled a coalition of supporters who were actually excited to vote for him.
Tonight, 34-year-old state assemblyman Zohran Mamdani toppled a New York political dynasty, becoming the first New York City mayoral candidate since 1969 to earn more than 1 million votes.
He didn't just win his race, he won it decisively. Exit polls showing he got more than 50% of the vote.
On January 1st, I will be sworn in as the mayor of New York City.
I mean, look at the excitement in that crowd. This is the kind of energy Democrats have been desperately seeking for years. I haven't seen a crowd of New Yorkers this excited since the time the real Timothy Chalamet stopped at a Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest in Manhattan. And the craziest part is, after he showed up, he still came in third behind two other guys who looked more like Chalamet than the actual Chalamet. It's one of the best things about New York. We got knockoff Chalamets like we got knockoff Chanel bags. We even have knockoff Chanel bags that look like Chalamet called Chanalamet. We have so many Chalamets, there's even a Chalamet in Times Square with Elmo and Buzz Lightyear. If you thought Trump was bummed about the results before Mamdani's speech, he probably felt even worse when he heard this.
Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
First of all, you do not need to tell him to turn the volume up. He's a 79-year-old Fox News addict. You know the volume is maxed out. I'm guessing the volume on Trump's TV is already at the
highest numbers that I've ever had.
Mamdani correctly calculated that standing up to Trump was a better political strategy than whatever this is.
New data came out today from KFF, and that is not Kentucky Fried French fries. KFF could be Kentucky French fries. Yeah.
Hide your family.
I know. Orange. Excuse me.
I'm sorry, did you think Kentucky Fried French fries was gonna land as a joke? It doesn't even make sense. No one says fried French fries. Also, that would be KFFF. You know, a joke is bad when even Amy Klobuchar is embarrassed. She's only 9 years younger than Schumer, but she's reacting like his embarrassed teenage daughter. Dad, just shut up and drop us off at the Boy Genius concert. And by the way, Republicans weren't the only ones who lost last night. Centrist Democrats who refused to endorse Mamdani, even after he won the Democratic primary, clearly miscalculated the extent of his appeal.
Today is election day in New York City. Did you vote for Mamdani or Cuomo?
Look, I voted, and I look forward to working with the next mayor to help New York City.
You're the Democratic leader, and you won't even say you voted for the Democratic nominee? Why are you treating it like a secret? You're talking about who you voted for the way the Colonel talks about his recipe for
Kentucky Fried French fries.
But I have to say, I've been enjoying the reactions from Republicans who tried to scare New Yorkers away from supporting Mamdani.
As Martha pointed out earlier, a full 9% of people say that they will leave if he in fact got elected. Before today, they said if he got elected, they're going to leave New York City.
And let me just say, I don't think 9% of New Yorkers are gonna leave because this is New York City, baby. Where else you gonna go? Where else you gonna go? Things happen here that don't happen anywhere else in the world. And just FYI, wherever you move to, no one's gonna like you there because you're just gonna complain about how bad living there is compared to living here, you know? Just sitting at a table being like, you know, back in the Big Apple, you can actually get a decent turkey sandwich at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday. And they're like, yeah, you mentioned that, Steve. Things happen here, and they happen fast. How fast? A dude who was polling at 1% a year ago was just elected mayor, and that's what makes New York City great. And if you can't hear the resounding message voters sent last night, then maybe you should
Turn the volume up.
This has been a closer look.